Obama back here at home is taking a rather aggressive tone as he faces a possible lawsuit from House Speaker John Boehner. Mr. Obama is, well, you might call it, taunting Republicans, saying, quote, "So sue me," as he pursues executive orders that bypass Congress. Karl Rove weighed in on it, saying to Greta Van Susteren last night that the president's tone is turning off perhaps even his supporters.
They wanted him to be a certain kind of a leader that he's not turned out to be. Look, the president's ability to be a strong and effective leader has been diminished in large part by his own decisions and his own conduct. We saw it this week when he looked like he was in a high school locker room slapping his towel around.
Juan Williams is a Fox News political analyst. Brad Blakeman is a former deputy assistant to President George W. Bush. Brad, I want to start with you. My grandmother used to always say, it is not what you say, it's how you say it. Take for a minute whether you agree or disagree with President Obama's actions. Are his words, is the way he is conducting himself presidential?
No, it's not. And look, Americans don't want a complainer-in-chief. We want a commander-in-chief. And if the heat's too hot, Mr. President, get out of the Oval Office. We are looking for a president who takes responsibility, whose actions meet his words. When he says we're going to have the most open and honest administration, be that. When you say you're going to be bipartisan, reach across the aisle, as Ronald Reagan did with Tip O'Neill, and do it. The fact is, if you don't get your way in Washington, it's never been that way. You must be conciliatory. You must in divided government reach across the aisle, and if you can't do it, don't complain about it.
Juan, is President Obama living up to his promises to be a new type of president, a president of bipartisanship who's able to get things done and look past things to bring people together? Because there's not a lot of people who are together in Washington right now.
There certainly are not, Leland. I think on this 4th of July, I think Brad would agree, the Founding Fathers didn't design government to be obstructed and blocked, which has been the Republican strategy with this president. So he's reacting out of frustration, but I think he's doing so with the intent of saying to the voters out there, he's not going to stand still even if we have a do-nothing Congress, and that's what we have.
And Brad, I want to read from a column you wrote a little while ago. Our Founding Fathers must be rolling in their graves. Is it really that bad?
It is that bad, and I wrote that over 2 years ago, where I said the title of my article was "The President's Attitude is So Sue Me." And this is his modus operandi. This is the way he conducts himself. The president says, I don't want to work with Congress. I don't want to work with the Republicans, so I'm going to do it my way. And what happens when you do that? You're inviting and you're taunting the Congress to stick up for their own power and constitutional authority by challenging you then in the courts. And the president just got rebuked this week 9-0 that he acted unconstitutionally with his appointments to the NLRB. That sets up John Boehner quite nicely in his attack with the president, which will rock the president if, in fact, it does get to the court, where the court will be forced again to rebuke the president as overreaching his authority.
Juan, are Democrats worried about this, or is the White House worried about this potential lawsuit, or are they rumbling for a fight?
Oh, no, they're inviting this. I mean, listen, they're not worried about it. I don't think most legal experts think this is going anywhere. I think it is a show by Speaker Boehner to his troops that he is going to try to fight this president to the very end. But, I mean, the reality is, this Congress, we talk about the president's declining poll numbers. Look at the Congress. They're not even close to having the president's approval rating. And again, the president sees that the American people, in terms of economic interest, we talked a moment ago about the Highway Trust Fund not being funded. We can talk about the lack of immigration reform. Lots of big issues out there not being attended to by the Congress. I think the White House and the president see this as an opportunity to remind Americans that while the Congress refuses to do anything, he is in action, and that's why I think he said, so sue me, because he's doing something.
I want to give Brad the last word. We only got about 30 seconds. Take for a moment out of the politics, if you can, and go into analysis mode. Is this where the White House wants to be teeing things up for the midterms, or does this play more into Republican hands?
Oh, this plays into Republican hands. Our base is energized. When the president abuses his authority and thumbs his nose at Congress and says, so sue me, he's inviting trouble. And I don't think many Democrats, and the ones that I speak to off camera, will tell you they're not happy with the president's overreach. They're not happy with the president's demeanor, and they wish he would cool down his rhetoric, especially as we approach the midterms.
Well, let me just quickly say, Leland, that on the Democratic side, I think voters are pretty thrilled to see the president out there fighting back.
and we'll see where that smile on Juan Williams' face goes. Juan Williams on the on the left, Brad Blakeman on the right. Thanks for joining us, gentlemen. Happy July 4th.
Happy 4th.
Juan's always smiling. Always a happy
Good
guy.
place to be.